And a great Friday afternoon to you. This weather video is driven by 802cars.com. They represent 802 Toyota, Twin City Subaru, 802 Honda, all located off of Exit 7 on Interstate 89. And a good Friday morning to you. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. We have an active weather pattern that's in effect right now. Main impacts will be Friday afternoon and evening. That's this afternoon and evening, being gradient wind gusts, southeasterly winds on the western slopes of the Green Mountains, fairly narrow geography. Not expecting anything very widespread. Wet weather has returned along with progressively colder temperatures. What old-timers call backward spring. Some of wet snow could even fall in the upper terrain. We might even accrue as much as 3-4 inches in places like the top of Jay Peak, top of Mount Mansfield, and so forth. And that may get down to grassy surfaces, it looks like, on Saturday afternoon and night. Best project weather days will come on Monday and again along about Wednesday. The weather pattern beyond this period remains colder, active, more likely resembling early to mid-spring rather than later spring. Antecedent conditions are mostly saturated ground. We got high water on area rivers and streams, and we have flood in progress currently on Lake Champlain lake shores, and that'll continue probably for the next week to 10 days, maybe even out 2 weeks. You see the storm system here. It is currently located across southeastern Ontario, and it's producing sort of intermittent rains across our area. We're starting to see a bit of a southeasterly wind brew, and you can see the 500 hectopascal thickness lines here in the tan color. And the blue line, you can see the surface low and so forth, and a lot of moisture being spread and pushed north and east out of the Ohio River Valley. Okay, looking at the 6-hourly increments, we can see the system that's going to be pushing off to the north and east across southern Ontario. A secondary area of low pressure with heavier precipitation develops through the night tonight and lingers into the first half of Saturday morning, but mostly it's across portions of New Hampshire, and then that begins to push on out, and that swings in colder air aloft with the blue dashed lines. That's temperatures that are at the 0 degree or below 0 degrees Celsius or below. Those isotherms showing temperatures aloft, cold enough for some snow. We have that little zippy system you just saw that's kind of moving on by, mostly affecting southern areas on Sunday. Otherwise, we probably have a nice day. Northern areas look like they eke out some dry weather. And then we have good weather on Monday. That's a best project weather day coming. And then another system. These are like being sprayed out of a fire hose. Very quick-moving systems coming in from west to east. That moves in on Tuesday. That also may include a little bit of snow, but mostly rain down on valley floors. We have a good day coming in on Wednesday. And then looking just beyond, just to kind of give you a setup here, probably looking at heavier precipitation, higher P watts and so forth, and maybe the possibility of some wet snow involved as well. That'll happen along about Thursday into Friday. And you can see it's just a very wet weather pattern right now. Looks like almost a ring of fire with the Bermuda High trying to set up, and yet another weather system that moves up the coast. This is for this coming next weekend. Okay, centered on Montpelier, Vermont, this is the Jeff's forecast, the GFS ensemble, and you can see that in a 3-hour period anyway, this is the biggest rainfall that we're seeing, and that is what's taking place during the last half of Friday into Friday night and early Saturday. And then we're looking at that to sharply drop off, and we still have these little smaller disturbances. So it's every other day that we start to see this kind of action. Looking at the total precipitation amounts, you're seeing this is a little bit better than 1 inch amounts, and this has been creeping up over time. Originally about 4, 5, 6 days ago, this is looking like maybe a half an inch. Now we're up to about 1 inch amounts. The other systems following don't really produce a lot until we get around the 1st of May. Looking at the precipitation type, you'll see that it mixes with rain and snow. So the green lines are basically showing rain, and then a little bit of snow mixing in from time to time as temperatures will be cold enough. And this is our conundrum here, as colder air is moved out with high latitude blocking across the polar region. This has pushed the jet stream to the south along with the colder air. So consequently, at 850 hectopascals, you're seeing a warm, rainy day today, relatively warm. and then the temperatures drop, and you see that it stays below the 0 degree isotherm here, and this is roughly at the same height at the top about Mount Mansfield. It's a very wet pattern. You can see high P watts. This is precipitable water that maxes out during the day today. Then sharply it dries out, much less precipitation until we get into this outlier here, and this is along about the 1st of May. I talk about seeing wind issues once we get about 50 knots on a low-level jet, and this seems to have just barely reached that criteria. However, today's wind issues, the southeasterly gradient winds along the western slopes of the greens, a fairly narrow geography, I don't think there's going to be a lot of impacts. We'll have a heads up immediately following this outlook. And here's a look at 2-meter temperatures. Weather Prediction Center, 7-day total QPF. This is, you can see this is about 1 inch amount, so that's 1.5. Roughly about 1.5 inches, most in Vermont, southern parts of New England. And then a sort of secondary amount here, greater than 1.5 inches along the St. Lawrence River Valley. And here's the conundrum with that high latitude blocking. It forces that jet stream so that it delivers a lot of cold air to the northern 1/3 of the United States and all of Canada. So consequently now we're looking at temperatures running about 6 to 9 degrees below zero, below season. 3 days later, looking at about 6 to 9 degrees below seasonal norms as well. Let's check the climate reanalyzer. Some pretty significantly cold conditions here. This is anomalous temperatures that are running about 10 degrees Celsius below normal, maybe even a little bit colder than that. And you can see some of that's also shown up in some parts of the Middle East as well as parts of Asia, northern Russia. The thing to look at here is Greenland is well above normal. And the Antarctic, 2.1 degrees running above normal. Antarctic is below normal now. These often switch back and forth. As this started out, I wanted to show you this little bit of thunderstorm activity crossing through the areas near Nantucket, a little bit south of Cape Cod. That's it from here, Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.